In an abandoned village, hidden deep within a dense forest, time had come to a standstill. Only the wind whispered of the past when a group of friends decided to spend the weekend. In this eerie place, they had heard legends about the people who once lived there, who vanished without a trace. As night fell and the moon illuminated the dilapidated houses, the friends began to hear strange sounds. At first, they were merely rustles, but soon they morphed into whispers. One of them, named Alex, decided to explore the surroundings. He stepped out of the house and headed towards the old church, where, according to rumors, dark rituals had taken place. When Alex approached the church, he noticed that the doors were ajar. Inside, darkness reigned, and only the faint moonlight filtered through the broken windows. He entered, and at that moment, the door slammed shut behind him. Alex turned around but saw no one. His heart raced, and he felt a chill run down his spine. Inside the church, he found old books covered in dust. One of them caught his attention. Strange symbols adorned the cover. Opening the book, he discovered entries about sacrifices and dark rituals performed by the villagers. Suddenly, he heard footsteps behind him. Turning around, he saw a silhouette standing in the shadows. Alex screamed and ran towards the exit, but the door was locked. He began to panic when a figure emerged from the darkness. It was a woman in tattered clothes, her eyes hollow and empty, seemingly oblivious to his fear. She reached out her hand and whispered something in an incomprehensible language. In that moment, Alex realized they were not alone in this village. Meanwhile, his friends grew worried. They decided to search for Alex and stepped outside. The night grew darker, and the forest around them filled with strange sounds. They called for him, but only echoes responded. When they reached the church, the door was open. They entered and saw Alex sitting on the floor, his eyes wide with terror. He recounted what had happened and what he had seen. The friends decided they needed to leave this place, but as they stepped outside, they noticed the forest had changed. The trees seemed taller, and the paths twisted and turned. With every step, they felt something watching them. Suddenly, one of their friends, Mark, vanished. The others began to panic and called for him, but only silence answered. They realized the village was not just abandoned, it was alive, and it did not want to let them go. Soon, they began to lose each other one by one. Each time someone disappeared, the remaining friends felt a growing sense of dread. Eventually, only one girl, Lena, was left. She decided she had to find her friends and escape this cursed place. Lena returned to the church, hoping to find clues. Inside, she saw that the books were open, and the pages had been turned, as if someone had been reading them. Suddenly, she heard the whispers growing louder. Lena realized it was the voices of her friends, calling for her help. She rushed to the exit, but the door slammed shut again. At that moment, she saw shadows beginning to gather around her. Lena understood that these were the spirits of those who had once lived in the village, and they were not going to let her go. Gathering all her courage, she shouted, "I am not afraid of you." At that moment, the shadows paused, and she felt their anger shift to curiosity. Lena began to tell them about her friends, how they had come here, and how they meant no harm. The shadows slowly began to dissolve, and Lena realized they were perhaps just seeking understanding. She promised to tell their story, and at that moment, the doors opened. Lena rushed outside, and finally saw the forest beginning to clear. She escaped the village but knew she would never forget what had happened. Lena returned to the town, but every time she heard the whisper of the wind, she felt it was the voices of her friends, who remained forever in the abandoned village.